let's rock and roll here. Let's see if we can't find some halibut. With halibut fishing, obviously, prep work is everything. Having enough bait, having the right baits, and taking your time, making sure things are right. You know, it's not just throwing something in the water. You know, there's little tips and tricks. You'll see what we do with our bellies. You know, salmon bellies obviously being number one. Everyone does it differently. What I like to do is I like to squid it, as I call it. Just make little strips. What that does in the water, it's movement, right? That there is movement, creating some action in the water. A little piece of belly like that drives halibut mad. Throw this down. You'll see some guys running hoochies and stuff like that as extra attractants. It all works, you know what I mean? Put something in the water, put some meat on it, but take your time, do it right.
What do you think about scent?
Scent is huge. Scent is everything. Scent is the most important, as equally as important as prep. Halibut, sense of vision is a little skewed down there, so scent is everything.
It can be dark at 300 feet or whatever.
Very dark. You know, we love these Procure Super Gel. This one's octopus. We've got some butt juice. Same with salmon fishing, right? We'll run the salmon slammer, the garlic bloody tuna. You know, we'll throw some on our belly. We'll throw some in our little hoochie. You know, for me, all this is a carrier for scent. You know, it's something to throw scent in. A little extra glow, a little extra color. Movement in the water. That guy is ready to rock and roll. We'll throw a belly on this side. We'll throw some herring down on the other. We'll put octopus up front and maybe a mackerel out the other side. You know, we'll give them as many opportunities and many chances as we can get. More baits, potentially more fish. It's a little bit more work. You know, especially dealing with those bow rods, but if we can make it happen and get a couple extra fish out of it, it's definitely worth the effort. So we'll drop this guy down to the bottom here. Like you say, we're at 260, 270 feet. We'll send her down to the bottom, bring it up a few feet, and let that scent dispersion kind of trickle back. You know, those halibut will come in from a mile away, 2 miles away sometimes.
What about jigging?
Jigging is definitely an effective way for halibut. You know, you're targeting, you know, you're moving, you're drifting, you're getting fish that you're trying to get them to react. You know, with scent, you know, they're coming in to feed on it. There's not a lot of movement. You know, that's why we do a little slit in our belly, just to add some flow, add some sort of movement. But you could throw a jig out the back and jig it. Action creates reaction. You know, you're trying to trigger that reactive strike. And jigs some days outperform bait. You know, you can put a little bit of bait on your jig if you want, but most days you don't need to. If they're feeding on the jigs and not on the bait, that's just how it goes.
So what we're doing is putting them in the rod holder and letting the motion of the boat.
Exactly. You know, we got a bit of a swell today, nothing crazy. You know, I like to call it a fish catching swell. It adds a little up, a little down, some movement to the bait, you know, to try to entice those halibut, right? Draw them in. But like I say, scent is everything. Can't stress it enough. Scent your hook, scent everything. More is best. So now we're on the bottom. Just make sure we're where we want to be. At the bottom there, we'll bring it up a few feet. And that's all there is to it. You know, this side's got J-hooks on it. We're going to have a circle hook over there, circle J-hook up there, and probably a circle up front with some octopus. You know, if they're committed to it and they want it, they will eat it. And once he's on, you know he's on.
Can we get anything else here while we're doing this?
You betcha. Sometimes you'll get lingcod, you'll get rockfish as bycatch. You know, this area especially, our fishing grounds as a whole, you know, you never really know what you're going to get. You know, sometimes you're looking for halibut, you'll get the odd lingcod. Sometimes you're trolling for salmon and you get the odd halibut, right? You just never really know what's going to happen. Put some stuff in the water and hope for the best, you know what I mean? Yeah. But I'll get this side set up, ready to roll. This guy we're going to put a herring on. Just like that. And this guy gets the special butt juice. So we got octopus on that, butt juice on this side. Again, scent is everything. Fill that hoochie up as much as you can. This stuff's oily, greasy. You pretty much need brake clean to get it off your hands. Once it's on, it stays on for a long time.